that I found the love of my life.
The latest Bachelorette promo promises more drama and romance with Katie's final 7 guys. Hey guys, welcome back to another shared news from home. We are going to dive into this promo to look for clues of what's to come. But before we get started, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, joined by the wonderful Zachary Reality. Zachary, this week was tough. Things are getting very serious at this point. We are down to the final 7, and honestly, I feel like it only gets more difficult from here.
Yeah, this is the best part of the show because this is when we get down to the nitty gritty. There are 7 guys left. All of them have very strong connections with Katie, and this is when it gets so fascinating because the love and the relationships, it's just at an all-time high. So I cannot wait to break down this trailer with you.
Yes, I could not agree with you more, Zachary. Let's just start diving into these clips because as always, there is a lot to unpack. First up, it looks like we're going to be seeing Mike and maybe Greg going on some one-on-ones. Let's take a look.
Oh my God!
I think that I found the love of my life.
I'd rather have my heart broken 100 times over than break somebody's heart.
So there's a lot just in those few moments. Let's start with Greg, Zachary, because to me, that certainly looked one-on-one like, and we know he's already had a one-on-one. So what are your thoughts on potentially a second round of dates with Greg?
Yeah, let's start with Greg. He is my favorite subject. So please, he definitely got another one-on-one. Katie's connection with Greg is so strong. And at this point, she really wants to build on that rather than giving a one-on-one to someone like Brendan, who she hasn't really had much of a connection with. And at this point, there's only a week before hometowns. It's safer to give it to Greg, who might need some reassurance. If you watched this week's episode, you saw that Greg really did need some extra reassurance because he was kind of unsure where he stood with Katie. Greg does not like to show his affection in front of the other guys. He doesn't thrive in group environments. So I think that Katie did need to give him this one-on-one date. And look at this scene, dancing in the rain, kissing in the rain. They are so hot and heavy for each other. And I think that Blake has some serious competition because it's very obvious to me that Greg and Blake are the 2 front runners. But Fiona, what did you think of Mike's date? He kind of whispered a little something in Katie's ear.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Mike. I feel like he obviously came out on top on that very ridiculous challenge. I think he won a lot of people over. He's been a steadily nice guy this whole time, but I can't think of any moment between him and Katie that I went, oh my God, this is it. They have such a strong connection. So I'm really excited to see if at this stage of the game, this date sweeps her off her feet, maybe knocks some front runners off their pedestals a little bit. I kind of feel like the energy between her and Blake, between her and Greg is so intense at this point that it would be hard for someone like a Mike or a Brendan, who you mentioned, to really flip the script this week. But honestly, we don't know. I mean, let's move on to this next clip because it kind of just keeps coming back to what we've been saying for a while now. They gave Katie a really great group of guys, right? And I mean, even she's going to be struggling with it this week. Let's take a look.
I've always said I want a good guy. Then I get handed a group of them. I want to narrow it in on who my person is.
Until you have a one-on-one, you 100% are behind.
So I have to say, for a final 7, this is a pretty good group. But I do feel, and I'm curious for your take on this, Zachary, that aside from Blake and Greg, there are a lot of guys in various stages of connections to Katie. We don't have a lot of equal playing field, except for I feel like our 2 very solid frontrunners. Who's going to make it into hometowns for, I think, Andrew S., for Justin, for Mike? This is going to be kind of a make or break week. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there is such a great group of guys left. There's also a really hot group of guys left. Look at all of these studs. And it looks like Brendan is actually missing from this group date, which means he might end up getting a one-on-one date as well. We have Michael A., Justin, Blake, and Andrew S. I mean, I think they all have really strong connections with Katie. They've all been building on those connections. We saw Justin's one-on-one date this week. We saw Andrew S.'s last week. Michael A. has had a very strong connection with Katie throughout the entire season. So yes, while it might be a little obvious that Greg and Blake might be ahead of the game, I think it's still up for grabs because a lot of these guys have strong connections with Katie and they have a lot to offer. So I'm really looking forward to next week because if you think that the Connor the Cat goodbye was sad, it only gets harder, and Katie knows that. It gets harder throughout the season. We're going to see a lot of heartbreak next week, and I don't know if I'm ready for it.
I know. No, I'm totally with you. And the thing is, we have these great guys, and this is their week to skyrocket that connection, take it to the next level, and solidify that hometown slot. We're going to be seeing Andrew S. and Michael A., who, like you said, have really strong connections, trying to make those final moves to secure their places. Let's watch this next clip.
I want to put so much into this, and it'll all be for naught.
I'm falling for you.
I really am.
No one can love you like I can.
So,
my heart.
I mean, two really solid moves there. I mean, Michael A., I think all of Bachelor Nation has absolutely fallen in love with him. Andrew S. with that little throwback moment to their one-on-one, very thoughtful, very intentional. I absolutely love these two guys, and I really do see their connection with Katie. I think that, I mean, you said it, saying goodbye to Connor the Cat hurt. If we had to say goodbye to Andrew S. or Michael A. next week, Zachary, I think I would need like a full week of mourning. I mean, it's getting really tough.
Especially with Michael A. He's truly won the hearts of America with his, very emotional story about his ex and his son. I'm also loving this pink sparkly dress that Katie has going on. I think that Michael A. really might, take Katie to hometowns. I think that he really wants to introduce her to his son, and we're not getting that clip for next week like we got last week in the mid-season trailer about Michael A. on FaceTime with his son. So I think that Michael A. might be in it for a couple more weeks. I can see him going to hometowns. They are definitely into each other. They have a very mature relationship, and I don't know if that's because Michael A. is a father or if it's because he's one of the older guys in the house. But I think Katie is really smitten about him, so I think we need to keep an eye on him. As far as Andrew S., I mean, that is so romantic that he is bringing it back to his one-on-one date with the cards, because you remember on their one-on-one date, they were taking the envelopes and they were doing these challenges. So Andrew S. is quite the romantic guy. He definitely knows that he has to step it up because it is now or never. So I'm going to predict that Andrew S., Michael A., Greg, and Blake are going to hometowns as of now, based on what we have been seeing. Are you on the same page with me?
I certainly think so. Like, you said that, and that made a lot of sense to me, which kind of leads me to this next clip, because when Brendan got that rose in this week's episode, I think everyone collectively looked around and was a little bit confused because, let's face it, we have barely seen any screen time from him at all, and he is still here in what's going to be a very pivotal week. So hopefully maybe we'll get a closer look at Brendan. Let's take a look at this next clip.
At this point, each rose I give out means hometowns.
I'm desperate. My back's against the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be snarky, but yeah, I mean, if I was him, I would be desperate too, because when you look around the room, there are different connections at different stages, but I would have to say his, at least from what we've seen, right? I do feel like maybe some of his better moments had to just be cut for time, because there had to have been some, because otherwise how is he still there, right? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to have Connor go home and keep Brendan, unless he's just been kept for a Hail Mary. I mean, I don't know. Do you think there's anything we could see from him this week to knock somebody else out of the ranking?
Fiona, there is nothing we can see from him this week because we haven't seen anything from him all season long. Now, he wasn't on that group date shot, so it's very possible that he does get a one-on-one date, but we're not seeing it fully in this promo. So it's also possible that Katie might end up sending him home. We know there's going to be a scene where someone knocks on the door that very much could be Brendan. I think at this point in the show, Brendan needs to be self-aware. If you have not made your move in your connection by now, you're kind of just wasting space, and you're wasting your time, Brendan, because Katie has to keep, guys on the show because it's a TV show. So Brendan, wake up. I think it's time that you either speak up, let her know that this is why you're here. Do you really like her? And if you don't, then you need to go home, because we don't know anything about you, and it's really too late to start to learn things about you now. And I don't know if Katie feels the same way that the Bachelor audience does, but Brendan, I think your days are very much numbered.
Yeah, Zachary, like you mentioned, this is from that mid-season promo, the photo we have right here, and certainly based on the sweater we're seeing here and the sweater we saw him wearing as he got up from that room, clearly looking like he's on a mission. I do really think he's doing anything at this point to try to show Katie who he is, show her why she's here. But as we've been saying, it just feels like at this stage of the game, if she doesn't know already, then she probably isn't going to have enough time with you to eliminate one of her other stronger connections and get you that slot for hometowns. Anything is truly possible. We don't know what's going to happen when he knocks on her door here. I guess we will just have to wait and see. Yeah, I mean, listen, there is something to be said about, I always feel like when we get to this point in the show, a couple of people kind of skate through because, for instance, a Connor, right? Katie and Connor had a great bond, but they had enough time together that she knew, right, that spark was missing. Maybe with Brendan, he's literally skating by because of that question mark, right? That lack of time. She doesn't want to eliminate someone she doesn't know how she feels about yet, but she's got only 5 more minutes to figure out how she feels. And if he can't make the most of that, he's going to go. So I agree with you. I think it's just a little too late in the game to knock someone like a Blake, a Greg, a Michael A down a peg and solidify a hometown spot for himself. But you know what? Crazier things have happened in these shows. We'll just have to wait and see. What's interesting is we've been talking about these front runners, right? We've been saying Blake, Greg, they're in such solid positioning. But also this mid-season promo, you guys, if you think back, did reveal that there could be some trouble in paradise with these guys. Especially Blake. It looks like he's going to have some late in the season doubts, or at least they keep pointing us that way. Let's watch this next clip.
I told her I'm not in love with her.
This is so hard. There's this possibility of sending home the wrong person.
I'm losing.
Oh no.
So they keep going with that soundbite where he tells her he's not in love with her. Part of me really appreciates that because I feel like if you don't really fall in love with a person in 3 weeks, it doesn't serve them or you to paint a fairy tale that's not actually going to come to fruition when marriage is on the line. But it does just feel like there are ways to convey that you're falling for someone and you're in the process of getting to that really serious place that don't include telling them point blank you're not in love with them. That feels like sticking your foot in your mouth, potentially hurting feelings. Do you think he's gonna slip up, make some sort of mistake, have a last minute panic? I just don't know how to interpret that little moment from Blake.
Fiona, I really hope that this is editing because Katie has already invested so much time in Blake with the short amount of time that he's been there. It's very obvious that they have the hots for each other and that she really likes him. And we did see Katie breaking down and crying in this trailer. So I don't know if she's crying over Blake because she's certainly not wasting any tears over Brendan. So there's only a few guys that she's really going to get upset over. So I hope that this doesn't mean that Blake is going to go home. But we also did see a preview of Blake on a hometown, as you mentioned earlier, with his sister, where she was kind of encouraging him to let Katie know how he feels and to tell her that he may be in love with her and to not waste any time.
What if somebody else has already said it and she's said it back? What are you waiting for?
I think in this competition, there is only so many guys that Katie is truly going to fall for. And you have to be strong and, absolute and positive about how you feel. Katie needs that reassurance. She needs to know that whoever she chooses and whoever she gives a rose to is somebody that is actually going to fall in love with her and want an engagement, want hopefully a marriage at the end of this. So I hope that Blake isn't being wishy-washy because we all know that Katie really likes him. So I'm hoping this is an editing thing. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. We also obviously can safely assume he's going to be in the top 4 because of that scene with his sister. So time will just have to play out between Katie and Blake the next couple of weeks on the show.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing that is kind of interesting is when you're the Bachelorette or the Bachelor and you have such a solid group of guys, girls that you have multiple really strong foundations and connections with, if you're the connection that may be strong but falls short where the others don't, sometimes that totally kicks you out of the game because how can the Bachelorette give her heart to someone who's not all in as the other guys that are already there with her? So I'm very curious to see how this is all going to play out for Blake. We do have one final clip from this promo, so let's check it out.
Losing it.
The one thing that's keeping me going is the hope, Andrew, that this is all worth it in the end.
So, Zachary, I am really curious. We've seen that Andrew clip before. Now that we're starting to get a better picture of the timeline of when that's coming into play, the decisions she has to make, what are your thoughts on that moment? I feel like
Confusing. No, you're good. This is just really confusing because it's like, what happened? Like, are they running to like say I love you to each other? Did something horrible happen? Did they possibly break up with each other? Did he break up with her or did she break up with him and then they're like going to apologize? It's so weird, but something crazy is going on if she is running to jump in his arms. I do think this is a good sign because she's like holding him really tightly and they're not like crying. But something traumatic has happened and I don't know what it could possibly be. What are your thoughts, Fiona?
well, so the thing is, we saw her in that sparkly pink dress with Andrew on what looked like it was going to be an incredibly romantic, very special moment. Maybe even another one-on-one, because where is everybody else? Did he set that up maybe on a group date? I mean, it's going to be tricky to figure out who's getting what time from now on, but this is a completely different outfit for Katie. So the question is, like you said, there's only really two reasons that she could be running to him in this chaotic fashion. Either he said he's got to send himself home and she's fighting for him one more time, or she wasn't sure how she was feeling and maybe started to let him go and then regretted it. I mean, both of those options seem like kind of out there and wild based on what we've seen from the two of them so far, but really at this point of the game, anything is possible. You guys, that is everything we have from this trailer. We, of course, want to know your thoughts on what is to come next week. And did you guys spot any other clues in this trailer that we missed? Let us know down in the comments. And of course, if you are not already subscribed to our channel, make sure you do. Make sure you ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future updates. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, joined by the wonderful Zachary Reality. If you want to come say hi, check out our socials there on the screen right now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.